One sentence. That's all it took to send shockwaves through the NFL. "I can't stay here anymore." That wasn't a whisper in the locker room or a leak from some anonymous source. It came straight from Shedeur Sanders himself. Calm, clear, and caught on camera. In an instant, everything changed. The Browns thought they had time. They thought they could control the story. But they forgot one thing. Shedeur doesn't play politics. He plays football. And when you ignore the best player on the field day after day, practice after practice eventually, the silence breaks. And when it did, it was thunderous. What happened next wasn't just a quarterback controversy. It was a full-blown mutiny from the fans, the players, and the media. And while Cleveland scrambled for excuses, New Orleans was already rolling out the red carpet. This isn't just about a trade. This is about power. About a rookie flipping the NFL hierarchy upside down and daring the entire league to evolve. Because if Cleveland won't value him, somebody else will. And what comes next? It's going to change the league forever. No cryptic tweets. No vague interviews. Just a moment raw, real, and caught on camera. Shedeur Sanders stood tall, surrounded by teammates and a handful of stunned reporters. The Browns had just wrapped another padded practice in Berea. Tensions were already simmering. But then, like lightning splitting the sky, he said the words that would change everything. "I can't stay here anymore." Not, "I'm frustrated." Not, "We'll see what happens." No sugarcoating, no filter, just the truth spoken plainly, deliberately, and with zero hesitation. Witnesses say the air shifted. Teammates froze. Reporters blinked. It wasn't just a quote, it was a statement. A declaration of war against dysfunction. And it didn't take long for the clip to explode. Within hours, it was everywhere. ESPN, Bleacher Report, every sports podcast imaginable. But what made it so powerful wasn't just the words, it was how he said them. No yelling, no finger pointing, no media theatrics, just a calm, grounded, professional athlete saying exactly what he meant. It was like watching a courtroom moment, a composed witness delivering undeniable evidence. And make no mistake, that wasn't Shadur reaching a breaking point. That was Shadur taking control of the story. Because for weeks, people had whispered about what was really going on in Cleveland. Rumors of favoritism, talk of mismanagement, a fifth-round rookie outplaying everyone in camp but still buried on the depth chart. The media speculated. Analysts danced around it. But Shadur? He went straight for the jugular. In just 5 words, he exposed the entire organization. And it wasn't just fans who took notice. Inside the Browns facility, the ripple effect was immediate. Players started asking questions. Reporters started pressing harder. And the front office? They panicked, because here's what they didn't expect. They thought Shadur would stay quiet. They thought they could hide behind development excuses or rookie timelines. But Shedur's play was undeniable, and now, so was his voice. He didn't demand a trade on the spot. He didn't slam his helmet or storm off the field. He just stated a truth the Browns never wanted to admit. He's too good to be ignored. And now that truth is out in the open, the Browns can't walk it back. They can't spin it. The cameras caught it, the world saw it, and the NFL heard it loud and clear. Shedeur Sanders didn't just break the silence. He broke the cycle, and the league will never be the same again. You can't fake greatness in the NFL, especially not during training camp. From the very first snap, Shedeur Sanders didn't just impress, he dominated. Accuracy? Elite. Decision-making? Faster than most veterans. Command in the pocket? Like a 10-year pro. And he did it all while being treated like just another rookie. Every practice told the same story. Clean footwork, tight spirals, quick reads. Shedeur was throwing receivers open, dissecting blitzes, and threading needles in red zone drills. Defensive coordinators were starting to notice. Teammates were talking. Even neutral observers, media, scouts, former players were all saying the same thing. This kid is special. And yet, not one first-team rep, not a single snap with the starters. Instead, the majority of reps went to Dillon Gabriel, a third-round pick who looked anything but ready. Let's compare. Shedeur Sanders, 75% completion rate across camp, 0 interceptions, multiple touchdown drives in team drills, flawless 2-minute execution. Dillon Gabriel, sub 61% completion percentage, interceptions in full speed periods, happy feet in the pocket, mistimed throws, inconsistent reads, you name it, the tape doesn't lie. And still, Gabriel stayed at the top of the depth chart. Fans watching from the sidelines could feel something was off. Reporters started asking questions. Was this a true quarterback competition or a scripted performance? The Browns' coaching staff kept feeding the same lines. We're evaluating everyone. It's a process. Competition is good for development. But here's the truth. Shadur wasn't competing. He was dominating. The Browns just refused to acknowledge it. And that's where the real issue lies. Because when performance doesn't matter when politics decides playing time, the locker room notices. Players who've grinded for years, who know what good football looks like, start whispering. Then they start talking. And soon, you've got a divide that no pep talk can fix. Leadership can't be faked either. Gabriel's presence felt forced. Players didn't gravitate toward him. Meanwhile, Shedeur? He owned the huddle. Veterans respected him. Young guys followed him. He was building chemistry, even with limited reps. But all of that was dismissed simply because of draft position. 5th-round pick versus 3rd-round pick. That's all it took for Cleveland to bury its most promising quarterback behind an outdated hierarchy. It didn't matter that Shadur was clearly the better player. It didn't matter that his play screamed NFL ready. What mattered was control, and Shadur broke that illusion with every throw. Now the Browns have a problem they can't ignore. Because the numbers, the tape, and the team chemistry all point in one direction. And Cleveland? They chose to look the other way. But that decision is coming back to haunt them fast. Because the more they ignore Shadur, the louder his name becomes everywhere else. What if the competition was never real? That's the question now haunting Cleveland's front office, coaching staff, and locker room. Because more and more sources are stepping forward and their message is chilling. Kevin Stefanski had already made up his mind. Long before the first snap of training camp, before Shadur threw a single pass, before Dillon Gabriel even stepped onto the field. The so-called quarterback battle was nothing more than a scripted charade designed to protect the status quo. According to multiple insiders, Stefanski and his staff were locked in on Gabriel from day one. The reps weren't earned, they were assigned. The depth chart wasn't flexible, it was decided. Shedeur Sanders? He was never given a fair shot. And now that it's unraveling, the truth is spreading like wildfire. Players are starting to talk quietly, but clearly. A few are leaking frustration to the media. Others are confronting coaches behind closed doors. Veterans who've seen it all before are saying the same thing. This was rigged. Think about it. How else do you explain a rookie outperforming the entire quarterback room in every measurable category and still being locked out of first-team reps? Accuracy? Advantage Shadur. Leadership? Advantage Shadur. Red zone efficiency? Pocket awareness? Arm strength? Every drill, every session advantage Shadur. And yet, every day, the team doubled down on Gabriel. The film didn't matter. The chemistry didn't matter. The locker room's energy didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was sticking to a predetermined plan. It's no wonder tensions are boiling over. This wasn't just disrespect, this was organizational betrayal, the kind that fractures trust and destroys morale. And Shadur? He saw it, he felt it, he knew what was going on. He didn't lash out, he didn't complain, he just kept playing at a level they couldn't deny until they were finally forced to face it. And now, it's too late. The moment he said, "I can't stay here anymore," he wasn't just calling out Cleveland's leadership. He was exposing the system they tried to protect, a system built on politics, not performance. And that's why this story has exploded across the league. Because it's not just about one quarterback being disrespected. It's about every player who's ever been overlooked, underestimated, or boxed in by a coaching staff unwilling to admit they were wrong. Shadur cracked that system open. And the fallout? It's only just begun. Because while Cleveland's foundation crumbles, another team is already preparing to give Shadur something he's never had in the NFL. A real opportunity. And where that opportunity is coming from? Well, that's where things get even more dangerous for the Browns. While Cleveland scrambled to contain the chaos, New Orleans was already making moves. Whispers turned into phone calls. Film rooms lit up. Coaches pulled out Shedeur Sanders' college tape like it was the Rosetta Stone. Because to them, this wasn't just a disgruntled rookie. This was the answer to a question they've been asking for years. Who leads us into the next era? Let's start with the obvious. The Saints need a quarterback. Derek Carr's time in New Orleans has been underwhelming at best. He's aging, inconsistent, and no longer the long-term solution. Behind him, a shaky mix of placeholders and developmental projects. But Shadur, he's ready now. And more importantly, he fits. Schematically, this offense is built for him. The Saints love vertical shots. They thrive on movement, play action, and keeping defenses off balance. And Shadur? That's his game: mobility, precision, and the ability to extend plays without losing control. But it's not just about X's and O's. It's about identity. New Orleans isn't a city that does fake. It doesn't respond to manufactured hype or empty charisma. It wants confidence, swagger, and leadership. Not the kind that's shouted from the rooftops, but the kind you feel the second someone enters a room. That's Shedeur Sanders. He doesn't need to adapt to New Orleans. He is New Orleans. And the Saints know it. Behind the scenes, the interest is heating up. GM Mickey Loomis is already running scenarios. Head coach Dennis Allen is crafting a vision. Offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael is reportedly designing concepts with Shedeur in mind rollouts, layered play action, bootlegs with dual reads, plays that leverage Shedeur's instincts and arm. Even players are getting involved. Sources say key veterans have reached out privately. The locker room? They're all in. Some are calling it a perfect match. Others say it's exactly the kind of shakeup the Saints need to ignite a playoff run and build a new dynasty in the NFC South. It's no longer speculation. This is a full-court press. And it's happening fast. Because the Saints see what Cleveland refused to. Not just the talent, not just the upside, but the moment, the cultural shift. The chance to align with a quarterback who's not just NFL-ready but era-defining. They're not trying to mold Shedeur into something else. They're building around exactly who he already is. And that's the difference. While the Browns fought to suppress him, the Saints are ready to unleash him. And they're not the only ones watching. Because once word got out that Sanders was done in Cleveland, the entire league started paying attention. In the NFL, talent is only half the battle. The other half? Environment. And that's where the New Orleans Saints separate themselves from Cleveland in every possible way. Where the Browns offer chaos, mixed signals, and behind-the-scenes dysfunction, the Saints offer something rare: structure, stability, and a plan. Let's start at the top. Head coach Dennis Allen may be a defensive mind, but he understands quarterback development. More importantly, he knows when to get out of the way and let his coordinators work. And that's where Pete Carmichael comes in. For years, Carmichael was Sean Payton's right-hand man. He helped design the schemes that made Drew Brees a Hall of Famer: short to intermediate strikes, vertical flexibility, play-action deception, and most importantly, a system that puts quarterbacks in rhythm early and keeps them in control. Now imagine that system but built around Shedeur Sanders. Quick reads, layered options, motion-heavy setups that isolate defenders, plays that reward intelligence, vision, and touch, all traits Shedeur has already displayed in abundance. The Saints aren't asking him to be Superman. They're crafting a system that allows him to be exactly what he is: efficient, deadly, and calm under pressure. But it goes even deeper than playbooks. New Orleans isn't just schematically sound, it's culturally aligned. This is a team that rewards hard work, elevates quiet confidence, and demands accountability. There are no politics in the Saints quarterback room, only performance. And from what insiders are saying, that's the pitch they've already started delivering to Shadur behind closed doors. You'll earn it, and if you earn it, you'll play. No empty promises, no depth chart manipulation, just real competition based on what matters: tape and trust. Even the front office is aligned. GM Mickey Loomis has a track record of building rosters that support quarterbacks instead of sinking them. A powerful offensive line, dynamic weapons like Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, and Rashid Shaheed, red zone threats, speed on the outside, pass-catching backs. This isn't a rebuild, it's a plug-and-play opportunity. And that's exactly what Shadur needs. A team that doesn't treat him like a project, a coaching staff that doesn't make excuses, a front office that doesn't see a fifth-round pick but sees a future franchise star. Because in Cleveland, Shadur was boxed in by draft status. But in New Orleans, he's judged by his film, and his film speaks volumes. It's no surprise that the Saints are already preparing their playbook for a Sanders-led offense, because this isn't a long-term experiment. It's a short-term opportunity with long-term consequences. And while Cleveland watched his talent and stalled, New Orleans is watching his rise and stepping on the gas. When Shedeur Sanders walked out, it didn't just shock the fans. It split the Browns' locker room in half. On the surface, it looked like Cleveland was moving on. Front office suits gave their rehearsed responses. Coaches stuck to the script. Next man up. We support all our players. The usual noise. But behind the scenes, tensions were boiling. Because here's the truth, nobody in Cleveland wants to admit, a lot of players backed Shedeur. Not because he was loud, not because he demanded special treatment, but because he earned their respect. In the film room, on the practice field, in the huddle, veterans watched him show up early, stay late, ask the right questions, and execute under pressure. He didn't try to be a savior, but every time the offense sputtered, it was Sanders who injected life into the unit. So when he was benched, belittled, and dismissed publicly, that hit different. Wide receivers started talking. A few key offensive linemen weren't hiding their frustration. Even one defensive leader, whose name we won't drop, reportedly told a coach, "We just lost our shot," because this wasn't about a fifth-round pick anymore. It was about a culture shift, and the front office missed it completely. Some players saw a rising leader being suppressed, others saw politics and power plays, and once the trust cracks, it doesn't come back easy. That's the danger. It wasn't just about Shedeur. It was about what his treatment represented. When your team leader starts getting punished for outperforming expectations, guys start looking over their shoulders. Who's next? Who else gets buried for not playing the game the right way, the way management wants? The locker room isn't saying it outright, but it's clear. There's a divide, and it's growing. Younger players are whispering. Vets are taking sides. Coaches are stuck in the middle, walking on eggshells. And while the organization pretends everything is fine, the performances on the field say otherwise. Missed assignments, poor communication, flat energy, it all adds up. Some insiders are already saying the Browns' season is circling the drain, and it's not even week 1. The Shedeur situation didn't just rock the building, it exposed it. And while Cleveland tries to patch the holes and pretend they're still in control, the rest of the league is watching. Players are talking, coaches are taking notes, because now everyone knows what the Browns tried to keep hidden. They didn't just lose a quarterback, they lost the locker room. If Cleveland thought they could silence Shedeur, they forgot who his father is. Because when Deion Sanders speaks, the world listens. And this time, Coach Prime didn't hold back. At first, he stayed quiet, let the media speculate, let the Browns fumble their PR spin. But behind the scenes, Deion was fired up. Watching his son get benched after outperforming the starter, watching him get ridiculed by analysts who hadn't even watched the tape, that wasn't just disrespect, that was war. So when he finally spoke, it hit like a bomb. In an unfiltered podcast appearance, Deion dropped one line that instantly went viral. "You can't dim the light of a man born to shine, not even if you own the stadium." Mic dropped. The NFL world exploded. Fans rallied behind Shedeur. Former players backed him publicly. Even media figures who had trashed him weeks earlier suddenly changed their tune. And it didn't stop there. Coach Prime started making calls, to real people. GMs, coordinators, owners, not to beg, but to remind them. This isn't just a quarterback, this is the future. And he's not wrong. Deion built a brand, a movement, a legacy, and now that legacy is wearing too. He didn't raise Shedeur to fold under pressure, he raised him to take pressure and own it, and Deion wasn't going to let a broken system bury him before he even got started. Insiders say Deion is now actively involved in Shedeur's next landing spot, not as an agent, not as a helicopter dad, but as a strategist, a brand architect, a man who knows exactly how to turn disrespect into dominance because he's done it his whole life. Now he's doing it for his son. The message is loud and clear. Shedeur is no longer just a player. He's a movement. And Deion's not waiting for an invitation from the league. He's building a blueprint that every team will wish they followed. And here's the kicker. This pressure? It's not hurting Shedeur. It's unlocking him. Because if there's one thing Deion Sanders passed down to his son, it's how to handle a spotlight that burns. Shedeur isn't rattled. He's ready. And with Coach Prime behind him, he's more dangerous than ever. The Browns thought they were benching a rookie. What they actually did was awaken a dynasty. When Shedeur Sanders walked out of the Browns facility for the last time, he didn't slam the door. He didn't post a cryptic tweet. He didn't need to. Because his silence said everything. He knew what they did, and so did the rest of the league. For weeks, the Browns tried to control the narrative. They downplayed the controversy, leaned on their PR machine, and told the media it was just football. But nothing about this was normal. Franchises don't just let quarterbacks like Shedeur walk. especially not ones who were outplaying veterans and energizing a tired fan base, unless something deeper was going on. And now, the whispers are growing louder. People around the league are asking hard questions. Was this personal? Was it political? Was it about control? Because when a player starts becoming bigger than the playbook, certain coaches panic, certain executives get insecure, and the system the old boys club starts closing in. It's happened before. But what the Browns didn't realize is that this time, they picked the wrong one. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just another prospect. He's a new kind of athlete, media-trained, brand-aware, socially sharp. He doesn't need the NFL to build his name. The NFL needs him to stay relevant with the next generation. And now, the narrative has flipped. The Browns are being painted not as a team protecting their culture, but as a team protecting their power. And Shedeur? He's being framed as the scapegoat who never got a fair shot. But here's the twist. This story isn't ending in Cleveland. It's just beginning. Behind the scenes, sources say multiple teams have already reached out. One NFC South team reportedly sees Shadur as a future face of the franchise. Another team in the AFC is rumored to be seriously evaluating a trade. And Shadur? He's keeping quiet, but he's working. Grinding, preparing, waiting for the right opportunity, not just any opportunity. Because now he knows the game better than ever. He's been inside the machine. He's seen how fast loyalty can vanish. He's learned that sometimes talent isn't enough, but he's still here. And with Coach Prime in his corner, a loyal fan base at his back, and the entire football world watching, Shedeur Sanders is about to write his own script. Not one built by scouts or GMs. One built by fire. So the question isn't if he'll get another shot. It's who's bold enough to give it to him. And when they do, every team that passed, every coach that doubted, every exec that played politics, they'll be forced to watch the one quarterback they couldn't control ache sen I and wan set the league on fire.